In the wake of the protest against the rising cost of living and bad governance around Nigeria, there are calls for President Tinubu to curb corruption in government. Let's bring in Ezekiel Nya-Etok, who is the Executive Director of State Services at the Federal Housing Authority and a former ADC governorship candidate in Akwa Ibom State. Good to see you, and thanks for your time. You had spoken a little over a year ago about having the PIN code to unlock, the good of governance for the president at that point in time. And here you are, an appointee of the president. Has anything changed?
On which side of the divide?
No, because your
yes.
take then was that there's a singular thing to deal with, a singular monster, and you say it is corruption. And you say the president can do it, and you also have the wherewithal to unlock that.
Yes. Thanks for having me. Also, thanks for clarifying an issue, because there's a video that came out seemingly some days ago. It actually was over a year ago. And, I had a lot of responses. This was bold, this was audacious, this was something else, like everybody was, hey, 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 you stood up to the president. That was nice. And it kind of made me a kind of hero, okay? But there's something called integrity. Integrity means you must locate things where they are. And I'm happy you let it out that that was about a year ago. It's an old video. That said, the issues remain as germane now.
Okay, you know what?
Yes.
Sorry, apologies. Let's put you on hold while we see that video so that our viewers can appreciate exactly what we're saying here.
Mr. President, the foundation that you must, of necessity, put in place if we are to have a Nigeria is to tackle one word: corruption. The biggest pain that you have that has been inflicted on us in Nigeria is on account of one word: corruption. What is the pain? Removal of petroleum subsidy. Why has that subsidy, which has been the engine, the driving factor, what is enjoyed by the common man, why was it removed? I am one of those that said it's not sustainable, because we were subsidizing corruption. So what should we do is to excise corruption.
Right.
Yeah.
Fire on.
The issue then, as it was several years back, is as relevant today. And people expect that because you are a public office holder, you should not say the truth. I don't believe that. The only thing is that when you are a public office holder, you now have an opportunity to practice what you have been saying. I said that about a year ago when I was a candidate of a party. I was outside. But the question is, now that I'm inside, what am I doing about that problem? Because, you see, usually we have this tendency to locate a problem on one head. But that's not correct. We're all a problem. Each of us has a part to play. You are doing your part by bringing people like us to be able to talk. So the question is, Nya-Etok, as an ED in Federal Housing Authority, what are you doing to give us a better country?
Right.
How can I hold you accountable? So I think that is the perspective to which I look at how Mr. President must do his work. We must hold his feet to the fire. The governor's feet must be held to the fire, the local government, and the political appointees, the political office holders, the elected officials, all of us.
In doing that, yes. Where's the starting point?
I'll tell you, honestly speaking, there are two starting points. One, Mr. President, he's the head. You must hold his feet to the fire. Second is me as a political office holder. The media must bring me here to tell what is going on in FHA. They must ask me hard questions. They must bring health officials to ask. They must bring people in the education sector. Everybody's feet must be held to the fire. And not just to say, let me tell you what's going on in the protest. I'll tell you as a public office holder, and I want to talk as a Nigerian. Yeah. You know, this public office holder thing sometimes is tiring. I want to talk as a Nigerian. This protest thing, honestly speaking, I don't feel any heat whatsoever. I don't feel any heat. Because we're all pointing at Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President. But Mr. President is the head of all the MDAs. Within the MDAs is a body called the Federal Housing Authority. If they play their role well, what is the effect of the Federal Housing Authority of Nigeria today? What are they doing? What have they been? We have other agencies. Can we ask everybody to take responsibility in their little corner?
Is that where the challenge is? Because in this few days that Nigerians, look, it's not in the last few days, Nigerians have always been calling for good governance. And sometimes you wonder, to what extent really do we honestly want good governance? Both at the individual level, when you get the opportunity to be, you know, to be politically exposed, do you do the right thing? Or do we all say the right thing in public, but behind, we do something totally different?
Let me say something. I'll shock you to let you know that Mr. President saw that video over a year ago.
Right.
He saw that video. And then he said, Nya-Etok, you for over 30 years have been talking about housing. Come into housing. Fix it, let me see. As we speak, that video is not a problem to Mr. President. What he wants to know is, after 6 months, what have you done? After 1 year, what have you done? That's the problem that Mr. President has with me. He's looking. Because he knows that I was not in APC. He knows everything. But he also knew that for over 30 years, right from when he was a governor in Lagos State.
Do you think he's been doing that with other appointees?
Between you and I, there's something about the character of a person. For him to have picked me into Federal Housing Authority. Many people don't know what Federal Housing Authority is. It's a lot larger, bigger than people know it is.
The juicy,
and very soon,
juicy position, you would say,
juicy.
like we refer to certain ministries in Nigeria.
Absolutely so.
Right.
Absolutely. And he needed just 5 people, MD and 4 EDs. In the whole of South, South, Southeast, he picked me as the only ED in that place. Why would he do that?
So let's look at the bigger picture. Unfortunately, we don't have that much time.
Yes.
How do we begin to deal with corruption? Indeed. Yes. And you know, in that video, you talked about subsidy, and you talked about so many things.
I'm one Nigeria that is passionate about this country, Nigeria. Absolutely so. So the question is, Ezekiel, what are you doing in Federal Housing Authority? Let's start with me.
Doing?
I'll tell you 1, 2, 3 things. Number one is that we got into Federal Housing Authority about 5 months ago. As at today, I challenge everybody to find out if any of us has the SUVs that people have. We are driving, all of us, including the MD, the old project vehicles that we found. Number 2, as at today, we have raised the IGR of FHA from 400 million we met to almost 4 billion. And that is, TSA has already taken about half within 5 months. As at today, we have 26 new prime lands, which is the first thing to having houses. And Mr. President has gone ahead to give us access to mortgage through the Federal Mortgage Bank and funding for us, because he recently approved 2 trillion, you know, for housing and Federal Mortgage Bank. So the young people in particular are sure.
We are rounding off.
Yes.
I want you to see how we can put all of this into solving, if we can do this in a minute, into solving what we're dealing with at the moment. You spoke about corruption, so holistically, collectively, how do we plow all of this into fixing the problem that we're dealing with across sectors?
Number one, as a citizen occupying the office of the citizen, hold everybody their feet to the fire, number one, everybody. Number two, as a public office holder, please, Mr. President was not looking for a cheerleader or a hailer-in-chief in Nya-Etok. He was looking for a man that will help him deliver housing.
Right.
And if we take that personal responsibility as public office holders, we will make the president smell like a rose and not be sycophantic and sometimes come here to say things that even infuriate Nigerians. You're not helping the president. Speak truth to power. Do your work and the president will be proud of you. Don't come and be saying...
Right. Well, Nigerians are expecting the president to actually do some firing. Nigerians are expecting that. Unless, of course, the president is saying they're performing optimally.
I wouldn't want you to comment on that.
I wouldn't want you to comment on that. Yes. Thank you very much, Ezekiel Nya-Etok, Executive Director, Estate Services, Federal Housing Authority.